All right, you are welcome back from that very short break. Of course, I will be continuing with Dr. Moses Saleh, who is a political analyst. And we're going to be talking about, like I mentioned before, Yesom Wike pulling out of the peace talk. For everyone that knows, he is a very strong individual in the People's Democratic Party. And Dr. Moses, you were saying a lot. And I said, let's just talk about it briefly. Let's delve into it. For people who are wondering, what is this all about? Let's talk about that pulling out by the FCT Minister, Yesom Wike. Let's talk about it briefly now.
Yeah, thank you once again. Like I was saying before we went on that short break, I haven't read the letter that the minister wrote. If you look at the content of that letter critically, you will realize that the demands of the minister, circled around the purported resolution that they reached in the meeting. Number one, talk about leaving Samuel Anyanwu as the substantive national secretary of the party. Number two, you talk about the party withdrawing all the legal suits that they have in court. Number three, talk about the governors withdrawing their legal suit against the emergency rule in Rivers State. So if you look at this demand, these resolutions, they are all in favor of Yesom Wike. So that is why, before you can give a balanced analysis of what is going on, it's also important that we listen from the other party, what they agreed in their meeting and all that, and what brought disagreement. But notwithstanding, pending when they put out their own perspective of the issue, we should also look at the letter critically and see. Mr. Wike is such a person that always wants to have his way at all costs in everything. And the moment he does not have his way, you see him behaving the other way. So that is not a new thing about him. It's something that is more like a trademark. It's not something that is new. So it's not surprising to say that he is pulling out from the peace resolution that they have and all that. But the PDP is actually the victim here. Because for this, since 2023 election, PDP has been struggling as a party. That because they are having a serious internal wrangling, they could not position themselves to actually critique the government of the day. They could not position themselves to actually, act as a true opposition would. So, and Nigerians are not actually benefiting from whatever opposition that they want to put on. Because if the government of the day does not have real opposition to its policies and programs, definitely they'll be taking the Nigerian people for a ride. And that appears to be the order of the day.
All right. Now, you mentioned and you said the FCT minister, Yesom Wike, is the victim here. Now, why do you think PDP accepted all of Wike's conditions of withdrawing all cases from court? Now, if they are not afraid of him, or will I say they are afraid of him or they're not afraid of him at this point? Why do you think they'll accept all of his conditions?
No, I didn't say that Wike is the victim. I say PDP as a party is the victim here. It's not Wike. Wike is not the victim. PDP as a party, as an organization, is actually the victim of all the infighting and all that. So that is what I meant by that. And, if you look at Yesom Wike and his brand of politics, he has this tendency to bully those who opposes him. And because of that, such tendencies, people try to renege whatever agreement they have. Because at times when you have a gentleman agreement with someone and you go out there behaving as if you compel the person to toe your line, there is this tendency that people will withdraw from such agreement. If they are trying to make peace within the party and the other party are conceding to whatever he's proposing, he should also make effort to concede to whatever they are saying. Because there must be a meeting point. You cannot be the only one putting everything on the table and say everybody must concur to what is on the table. When they shift ground for you, you also shift ground so that you have a meeting point and you have an amicable resolution of whatever disagreement you are having. But they have shifted ground for you, according to your own letter, that you have gotten 3 resolutions from the meeting. Okay, you did not mention, their own, because they came to the meeting with a position, the same way you came. If you have had your way in resolving this, in having 3 of your proposals being accepted, what about them? That is why I said earlier that it's very important that we listen to the other party, in terms of what transpired. In terms of what transpired in the meeting. Because if you begin to go by what Wike is saying, you are likely not to have a clear understanding of what actually happened.
Dr. Moses, I want to put you on the spot. For as many people that have come out to say they feel that the FCT minister, Nyesom Wike, is the problem of the party, do you think he's actually the problem, or he wants to bring everyone together and hold the party together?
I don't really understand what they meant by the problem. They left the party. You see, one thing, nature abhors vacuum. After 2019 general election, many of the leaders of the party, just abandoned it. They left the party, not even coming to meetings or anything. So they left a huge vacuum. So I could remember it was Wike that, stepped in at that time, began to, speak as an opposition leader and all that against the Buhari's administration. So, and again, that gave him that opportunity to plant some people around within the party. And by the time he did that, thinking that, he was going to harvest that in 2023 by becoming the presidential candidate of the party. But he lost out to Alhaji Atiku Abubakar in that primary. Yeah, so, and that was why he got offended, and he has not recovered from that shock that he took from that primary election. So with that annoyance, and because the party couldn't put their machinery in place to resolve, post-election crisis. When you have, election politics is highly emotional, it's highly emotive. So when people go through that, there must be some level of mechanisms that actually come in to address, whatever in terms of any fallout from such thing. So PDP couldn't respond adequately to address that. And that is why, Wike went all out and began to do, play opposition within the party, which has affected the party even up to today. So those who are saying that he is a problem of the party, well, they may look at what happened before he stepped in. Because there was a vacuum, actually. Alhaji Atiku Abubakar that contested the 2019 election, general election with against Buhari. After that election, he left, and nobody heard anything from him again until, preparation towards the 2023 election. He came back. So the vacuum he left, somebody stepped in to fill it up, in terms of funding, in terms of placing people in offices and all that. This national secretary, I thought these are people that he brought, he placed there.
Yes, he did.
And removing secondos, bringing Yochuayu and all that. It's also unfortunate that Yochuayu, because of his long-standing political relationship with Atiku, has to choose Atiku over him. And this what caused the crisis in the party. And because the party could not respond adequately to manage that crisis, the crisis escalated and is tearing the party apart. So those who are blaming Wike should look at the past as well. That is why in that letter, if you read that letter, he said, I've done so much for the party. These are the things he's making reference to, So I think the major problem was that, the conflict resolution mechanism of the party is completely dead. Because if that aspect of the party is activated, on time and swing into action immediately after the presidential primaries for 2023 election, I don't think the thing would have dragged up to this point, So that is where the issue lies.
Okay, Dr. Moses Saleh, you mentioned about the vacuum. We understand that we all saw the vacuum till when he came in and did the needful. Now, with Wike pulling out of this peace talk now, do you think there will still be vacuum? Remember, he says, even if he's pulling out, justice will definitely be served. Do you think PDP can actually find peace? There can be this sequel that was there before, even without Wike's interference when it comes to peace talk?
You can see that, because the party has been weakening. When PDP was, some years ago, was very strong, even Wike will not dare what he is doing today. Because, when people like Audogbe, Ahmad Ali, when they were the one sharing the party, they would have disciplined him for long, expel him from the party if that is necessary, because they have dealt with people who were even bigger than him before. But because these stakeholders, these elders of the party decided not to bother themselves more with the party issue and all that, and again, because the PDP is not in government at the center, it's not attracting all these kinds of hawks around that, look for perks of offices. So that gave him that advantage to do what he's doing. But if they want to really put the party in order, I think they should, the Bukola Saraki's committee should work harder to bring the major stakeholders of the party, try to woo them back, especially those who have governed either at the state level or even at members of National Assembly on the platform of the party. Try to bring them back and see how, they can rebuild it. Because if they continue to leave the party in the hands of Wike and the rest, they will tear it into shreds. And once that happens, it's not good for Nigeria's democracy, because one of the beauties of democracy is options. The electorate must have options. And not just options that are very viable, because of the structure of PDP across the country, is a viable option. But the internal wrangling is not allowing the party to assert itself and take its rightful place. So to reorganize the party, they need to look at that. Peace and Reconciliation Committee need to work harder, expand their scope of responsibility to be able to reach out to as much as they can and, bring the party again and realign the party on the path of victory. If they didn't do that, then the Nigerian people don't really have much than to go with what is available to them.
Now, talking about bringing the party back to victory, and 2027 is around the corner. Now, what is the best option for PDP? Now, should PDP stand alone or join this coalition against APC? Because we hear that Atiku and the BOT chairman, Wagbara, were part of coalition meeting held in Abuja yesterday, which had Peter Obi and others in attendance. So, what do you think is the best option for PDP at the moment?
Thank you for that question. You see, actually, when you see politicians forming coalitions, there's a reason for that. There's a reason for that. People have ambition. Atiku had already run twice on the platform of PDP. He ran in 2019 and 2023, which is twice. And it's not most likely that he will get the ticket of PDP in 2027. And if you see, he wants to run. So they would like to choose another platform, by forming coalition to either register a new political party or to adopt an existing party that may not be PDP so that he can run. So don't bother yourself much about the coalition talk that is going on. It's personal ambition that people are pursuing. But we are discussing PDP as an institution because PDP has been in power for 16 good years. And if you like it or not, PDP is one of the reasons why Nigeria's democracy is still standing today, because there are so many decisions that they made when they came to power that actually, sustain our democracy to today. So you cannot undermine their contribution to the sustenance of our democracy. So for that reason, it's not something that we should just allow. I'm not a member of PDP. I'm not a member of any political party. But as an analyst, I'm seeing it, from a dispassionate position that haven't, haven't contributed to the sustenance of our democracy for 16 years, and another political party took over, and the party has been in power for like 10 years, additional 10 years. So you can imagine that if PDP had not done what they did when they were governing the country for 16 years, perhaps another party wouldn't have taken over, and and the democracy still remains. So for that, PDP had made invaluable contribution to the sustenance of democracy. This is the longest in the history of Nigeria in terms of democratic governance and democratic rule. We have never had it this long. If you look at it from the independence era, the moment Nigeria became a republic in 1963, as at 1967, it was over. 66, government was overthrown just 3 years after the Republican Constitution. So when we came back again in 1979 during the Second Republic, 1983, it was overthrown by Buhari's regime, junta. Then the military continued till around 1991, 92, when they started another transition program, which was aborted. Again, the military continued till 1998, till we now have this democracy in 1999. So you can see that this democracy this Fourth Republic is the longest democratic rule in Nigeria. And if you look at it, the party that started it in 1999, before they now handed over power in 2015, did some jobs that sustained the democratic rule. So for that reason, PDP should not just die like that. Because they have a rich experience, at least for what they have done. Many countries who have going through coups and all that, and how to sustain democracy, they have some things to learn, from PDP. How did they achieve that in Nigeria? So for that reason, PDP as an institution should be able to preserve itself and sustain its presence. That is just my own perspective on the issue of PDP. I can't really hear you. Hello, I can't hear you. Please, can you speak clearly? I can't.
Oh, okay, you couldn't hear me.
Okay.
I said, I
Yeah,
look at
yes.
PDP. Yeah, I said, do you think the glory days coming back, having their glory days again, the PDP, but looking at all of these defections that has happened, looking at all these internal crises that they have, all of these tussles here and there when it comes to so many issues, do you think the PDP will still come back and have their glory days again?
All these things that you are seeing now, they are symptoms of ineffective leadership. The leadership of the party is in comatose. And in every organization, even at the family front, if the leadership at the family front is ineffective, children misbehave. Couples misbehave because of ineffective leadership. So the same thing also applies to an institution. So what you are seeing in terms of the defection from the PDP to the APC, for instance, these are cases of leadership problem in the party. If the party leadership is strong and assertive, you may not see this type of defection that you have seen. If even you also need to applaud the PDP for their quick intervention, because if they had not responded after the governor of Delta State defected, if they had not responded immediately, they would have lost more governors to the APC by now, because the wave would have swept them. But when they saw what happened in Delta, they quickly responded, by going to other places to stop that wave. And that is what you have seen. Even though the other party, the APC, is working to see how they can bring them in. But what PDP is trying to do now is likely to hurt them. And I'm seeing that people like the governor of Delta may have made a very terrible political mistake. Because for the past 25 years, PDP has been in Delta governing the states. So they have entrenched themselves very well in that state. I don't know how he's going to do it in the coming election, because there are dissenting voices coming out of Delta to show that they are not in line with that decision. Majority of the party members are not living with him. So I don't know how he's going to do it, because if the PDP now present a formidable candidate against him in the next election, he might be voted out of power. He might be voted out. So PDP as a party should be able to, reorganize itself. And where they made mistakes, they should be able to correct them and see what they can do, in the next election. But the way PDP is right now, I don't see them as a party that can solely, underline the word solely, that can solely, defeat the ruling party, except they go into coalition or whatever arrangement that they can have with other parties to see how they can be able to come together to mass up their strength to match up against the ruling party. Once that happens, they might have a chance. But for them to go solely, it's not likely. It's not most likely because of the state of the party. The party has been weakened by internal wrangling. Members are in disarray, and so on and so forth. So they are not likely to have that kind of strength at this time to be able to do much. But if they have understanding with other parties coming together to mass up their strength together, then they might be able to do something significantly effective.
Let me quickly ask you a question, Dr. Moses Saleh. Now, we're going to deviate from the PDP crisis, the Wike pulling out of the peace talk. Now, with all of these defections here and there, and of course, we will see more defections to come, hopefully, do you think we are heading towards a one-party system? Do you think so? Quickly now.
I don't think so. Because what is happening...
I had a feeling you say that.
What is happening is not actually new. Because when PDP was ruling, we had the same scenario where governors from other parties defected to the PDP. At the National Assembly, we saw members of other political parties defecting to the PDP. So the ruling party is always the in thing in politics in Nigeria, because most politicians in Nigeria don't really have principles. They don't. And I am bold to say that they don't really have principles. And that is why, Mahatma Gandhi said that politics without principle is nothing, because there must be some certain landmarks, that you can say, oh, no matter what, this boundary must not be crossed. If you don't have such principles, you are not likely to do much in politics. So many politicians in Nigeria, they don't really have. If PDP emerges tomorrow as the ruling party in Nigeria, you will see those same set of people coming back and say, we are coming back home. They are so shameless. They are so shameless. I'm sorry to say that they are so shameless, because they don't really have principles. You don't know where they stand. Like the other day, the governor of Akwa Ibom was saying that the parties in Nigeria don't have ideology. That there's no ideology. But you contested under a party, you use the manifesto of a political party to campaign.
Using the platform.
So what is in that manifesto is an articulation of the ideology of the party that you use. The party you are defecting to, they have their manifesto. They have their ways of doing things. You are going to join them and you say they don't have an ideology. It's very, very wrong. You know, when it suits them, they say it's peace. When it does not suit them, they'll change their voice, they'll change their tone. So that is how they are. No principle. No principle. There is no principle guiding them. And because the way political parties are run in Nigeria, you know, they are run in such a way that people are just giving tickets because they bring large sums of money to the party. You know, which is not supposed to be so. If you go to other climes, you can't take a ticket of the party to run if you have not fully embedded in the philosophy and the ideology of the party. Because there are so many checks that will, you know, determine whether you are with the party or not. So the political parties in Nigeria should, you know, look inward and see how they can, you know, reorganize themselves and make themselves truly an institution that should outlive every administration. If they do not do that, then there is no hope for the parties going forward.
Oh, thank you so much, Dr. Moses Saleh. Thank you so much for your input. Thank you so much for being a part of Global Morning and, of course, the first discuss of the day. And, of course, Dr. Moses Saleh, he is a political analyst. Thank you so much, Dr. Moses.
Thank you for having me.
All right, with that, we are done with the first round of the first discuss of the day. And like we said, hope the needful is done when it comes to PDP, and I hope the members of the PDP will keep hope alive, and this peace talk will yield fruits. Is very important, with or without the FCT Minister Nyesom Wike. Let's quickly go on a very quick break because the second discuss on Global Morning continues shortly. Stay tuned.